Et nous allons faire un voyage en pensée. Nous allons voyager pour aller jusqu'à la Grande-Bretagne, aux différents endroits où elles sont. Et c'est un contexte précis que vous connaissez, qui fait partie de la congrégation. Mais aujourd'hui, nous allons les rejoindre d'une manière toute particulière, en étant plus proches d'elles. Et la première attitude, comme la sœur Immaculée l'a juste rappelé tout à l'heure là, c'est l'attitude de l'écoute, non? C'est ça, dans la marche synodale, c'est l'écoute profonde qui nous est exigée. Et c'est cela qui va nous rapprocher les unes des autres. Aussi, c'est merveilleux de voir que les sœurs sont très nombreuses et que cette rencontre ait été ouverte à toute la congrégation. C'est magnifique parce que notre sens d'appartenance, c'est sûr, ça va grandir par le fait même d'écouter les différentes réalités, les différents contextes. Alors, merci à la magie de la technologie qui nous connecte à ce moment. And thank you very much for the Sisters of the Great Britain. We are going to listen to you now. And you have the floor. I think that everybody is ready for you. Thank you very much. I don't know who's
On
going
est
to
prêt
start.
pour vous,
The
les sœurs
technician
de
is
la
there,
Bretagne.
and Sister Justine also. Thank you.
I will begin.
Thank you.
I need to share my screen.
Je vais partager
Sisters, please
l'écran.
switch your microphone off.
Moi?
Is that okay?
Voilà.
Thank you, everybody.
Le
As
chapitre
we say, good
général.
morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good day to
Bonjour,
everybody.
bon
It's
après-midi à
brilliant to
chacun.
be here. Thank you,
C'est
Sister
vraiment bien
Immaculée,
d'être
for that
ici.
pause for
Merci à
Sister
Sœur
Mary.
Immaculée
All of our
pour cette
preparations
pause pour
today
Sœur Marie.
were with
Votre
Mary,
préparation
so we
aujourd'hui,
hold
nous
her with us.
pensons, nous avons Marie avec nous toute la journée.
In order to prepare for today, we
Pour
took time on
préparer
our own. We reflected in community,
cette attention,
and we
nous avons
shared
pu
as a
du temps
region
personnel,
in Zoom meetings
réfléchir en communauté,
together. What we've
et
decided to
partager
do
en
is
tant que
to
région.
present 4
Et
areas
nous avons
based on our
décidé
discussions
à
of the
présenter
chapter
4
documents.
domaines
Sister
basés sur
Louise
notre
is going to
discussion
talk
de
about the
documents de
background and
chapitre.
our country's evolution. Sister
Sœur
Margaret
Louise
will
va
speak about the
parler
volatile world.
de quelques lignes de réflexion sur le fond
Sister Bridget
britannique
will
et comment elle a changé au cours des années. Sœur Louise, sur le contexte de notre région et son évolution. Et Sœur Margaret, comment est la région aujourd'hui. Avant de commencer, vous allez voir l'image d'une femme.
And she will explain that now so that we can understand some of the creative side of what we're going to speak about. Is Doreen there? Have you unmuted, Doreen?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Greetings, everyone. Greetings, sisters. Geographically, Britain is an island nation, and for many communities within the country, the livelihoods depend on the sea and the land. As Sisters of St. Mary, we try to root ourselves within the heart of the people so that we share their joys and their sorrows and the daily challenges facing so many. This becomes a concrete reality through those with whom we share our lives, minister to, and work alongside. The Jubilee Year, Pilgrims of Hope, and the latest encyclical on the human and divine love of the heart of Jesus Christ, along with the ministries of each sister, led us to choose the symbol of the lighthouse. The encyclical reminds us that we are living in an age of superficiality, running frenetically from one thing to another, where it is possible to lose sight of our center. Pope Francis continues, all of us need to rediscover the importance of the heart. The Jubilee Year theme, Pilgrims of Hope, is a call to reawaken hope in our hearts and to share the light with others. The lighthouse is a beacon of hope, guidance, and protection, giving a source of light in the darkness to those in distress, guiding them through uncertain waters where they focus on the guiding light. For us, Christ is our light, leading us from darkness to light, on whom we fix our eyes and center our lives.
Thank you, Doreen. And Sister Louise is going to explain a little about how the British region has evolved over the years. We can't hear you, Louise.
Sorry. Start again. Before I prepared this, I discussed it with Sister Margaret Young, and she said two words to me, think shape. So that's what I'm doing. So what you're going to get is the shape of our province and how it has changed since its foundation in 1896. So in 1896, it all started with 5 sisters coming from Belgium to set up a school in Stortford. There were many poor children in that area who needed a Catholic education, and Stortford had no provision for it, as it was not a Catholic area. Initially, the sisters were not even
Une
welcome
région
there,
catholique.
but from
Au
very
départ,
small and
les sœurs
unpromising
n'y
beginnings,
étaient même pas
very quickly
bienvenues,
the school
mais
grew
après
into
des
and
débuts très
simply grew
modestes et
and
peu
grew.
comprometteurs, l'école a
Before
rapidement
long,
vu le
in
jour
1900, just 4
et
years
s'est
later,
développé.
another community and
Très
school were
vite,
opened
4
in Hill,
années
North Wales,
après, en
and in
1900,
1921, a
une autre
third
communauté, une
school
autre
and
école
community on the
a
east
été
coast
ouverte
of
à
England
Royaume,
in
au Pays de
Lowestoft.
Galles, et en
And there
21,
you have
une
the 3
troisième
schools.
communauté
And for
et une
more or
troisième
less
école
50
à
years,
Lowestoft,
these
sur
3
le
schools
côté
and the ministries
et
surrounding them
de
were
l'Angleterre.
our raison d'être.
Je-
Sisters might well be moved from one school to another, but
Pendant
would
plus
fit
de
in very
50 ans,
quickly in all
ces
3
trois écoles et
because
les
the
ministères
ministries, teaching,
volontaires
pastoral care, cooking, sacristy, refectory, account, administration were more or less the same in all 3 schools, and so the personnel were interchangeable. It struck me that such stability and structure as this must have made regional planning relatively simple in those days. Prayer life, too, would be broadly the same, take the same form and rhythm in the 3 houses. The habits remained the same over several decades, though modifications came in gradually. Then we came to Vatican II, the Second Vatican Council, 1962 to 65, and this was a watershed. The sisters followed the progress of the council with great joy and quickly embraced its recommendations in terms of dress, ministry, and choice of locations for founding new communities. And so very soon their lives began to take on a different shape, with an increasing emphasis on internationality at this time as well, which saw several young sisters from Britain opting to work with our sisters in Africa. Perfecte Caritatis, which was one of the shortest council documents, articulated general principles for an appropriate renewal of life and the rules of religious communities due to the changed conditions of our time. Specially mentioned was a constant return to the sources of all Christian life and to the original inspiration behind any given community. And there you have number 2 of Perfecte Caritatis in the 3 languages. That gives the spirit of that document. Well, Vatican II ended in December 1965, and I was a boarder in Lowestoft. I remember coming back from the summer holiday of 1966, and as quickly as that, we discovered that sisters had both hair and legs. The habit was shorter and now grey rather than black, so it was less severe. The bandeau had disappeared altogether, as had the long, heavy rosaries that the sisters always wore. But these external modifications mirrored an internal openness to the creative spirit. The apostolate began to change rapidly. The sisters had long been engaged in outreach for years before Vatican II, hosting summer camps and going out in twos during the summer holidays to offer catechesis in outlying areas of North Wales and the north of Scotland. It had always been open and hospitable, but still convents in those days had seemed slightly removed from the rest of society. But now, thanks to Perfecte Caritatis, apostolic religious were encouraged to explore their archives for inspiration from their founders, and hence evangelization among the most disadvantaged became our priority. For this, however, the sisters needed to spread out across the country, moving into smaller houses where we could be closer to the people and more flexible in our choice of ministries. So there were big challenges ahead for leaders on the level of province planning. But what was interesting was that even while the Vatican Council was still in progress, 2 of these small communities, which were to be so much a part of our future, were founded in that time, one in 62 and the other in 64. The first one was Burnham in the south of England, and the second Cooper in Scotland. Sisters could still teach in those small communities. There were schools, but the apostolate was gradually expanding to include teaching in state schools, state Catholic schools. Nursing came in then, health visiting, catechesis, parish visiting, pastoral care of the poorest members of our parishes and local communities, ecumenical initiatives, and parish liturgy. Suddenly, it meant working at totally different times of the day and night, and therefore having to establish new rhythms for community meals and prayer. By the early 1970s, 2 of our original schools, Lowestoft and Rill, had been closed. The third one, though, along with the 3 primary schools we had founded, still existed and were handed over to lay leadership. All of those, we're happy to say, are still thriving today. By the 70s and 80s, the sisters had moved out of all 3 original locations and formed communities all over Britain. Between 1970 and 2004, 14 of these were set up as responses to presenting needs in the different areas. Between 1970s and 1990s, that's what you saw, a complete mix and gather of different communities, all different shapes and sizes, but all quite small. Each one had its own shape and character, never more than 10 at a time. They opened and closed at varying intervals according to need. By then, the ministries had expanded again to include justice and peace work in a more structured way, faith and mission formation with young people, parish catechetical coordination, adult religious education in dioceses, mental health care, hospital administration, chaplaincy, retreat work, spiritual accompaniment, social work, and ongoing formation for teachers and head teachers. In the 1990s, it was time to regroup. We had never been numerous in Britain, but now we had 8 houses spread across England and Scotland and only 31 sisters. So while keeping a variety of apostolates, it was now time to scale down and focus. The pattern we established of closing 2 houses and opening 1 reduced us step by step to a total of 5, which was more manageable, 3 in Liverpool and 2 in the south. That was by the late 1990s. And over time, since then, as more sisters have died, further modifications have been needed and have been done. So here we are now in 2025, back to 3 communities. Very different though. They're not separate in the way that they used to be. They're in some ways, although one is geographically further south, we consider ourselves one now. 2 of these are in Liverpool, 1 is in Harrow. And we're only 12 in number now, so we have lost 2/3 of our sisters in 40 years and declined considerably in health and energy. But somehow we are still moving with the times, widening the pegs of our tents in response to growing needs. We remain united in purpose and hopeful in this year of hope.
Thanks, Louise. And so Sister Margaret Baxter is, with that in light, with our movements over time, is going to speak a little bit about the world in which we live in Great Britain.
Okay. We're living in a volatile world, there's no doubt about that. Internationally, 2024 has been a year of elections, resistance, and conflict. The toppling of Syria's President Assad, North Korean soldiers fighting for Russia, British and US missiles sent to Ukraine fired at Russia, Iranian missiles shipped to Russia, US armed Israeli airstrikes in Lebanon and Gaza, and finally Yemeni missiles fired at Israel. This global uncertainty is threatening our international relations and compromises the very essence of our democracy. Today in the United Kingdom, we're facing complex social and economic situations with significant concerns related to the rising cost of living, increasing health inequalities, climate catastrophes, and lack of inclusion of migrant workers, asylum seekers, and refugees. Here are some of the key concerns. The rising cost of living has had a dramatic effect on young families who are struggling financially and have become dependent on charity food banks to provide basic food essentials. Soaring rental costs for housing of low-income families is adding to a growing homeless population. Our health and social care systems are underfunded and the workforce overstretched. The very infrastructure of our hospitals is proving inadequate for the number of sick people requiring hospital treatment, and those fortunate enough to receive a bed often find themselves being nursed on the corridors. Underpaid healthcare professionals have taken to striking for fairer wage, and very limited social care resources are contribution to hospital bed blocking. Since Brexit, The UK has seen a dramatic flow of refugees, asylum seekers, and economic migrants risking their lives crossing the English Channel. Many of these people are in need of hospital and mental health care, adding to the already overstretched healthcare system. This fact has triggered an unwelcome reluctance of many in our society to receive these vulnerable people with grace. As a consequence, they find themselves living in social isolation, fearing violent attacks and racist abuse. This intolerance has further impacted on their already fragile mental health. In recent months, we have witnessed in England an eruption of violent demonstrations by far-right activists, spreading hate-filled messages relating to...
Sister Margaret, please, it's too fast. Can you speak a little bit slowly, please?
Sure, I will.
They are translating. Thank you.
Okay. I'll go back. In recent months, we have witnessed an eruption of violent demonstrations by far-right activists spreading hate-filled messages relating to political, social, and religious intolerance. And finally, the UK has experienced its own climate catastrophes. Hurricane force winds and life-threatening floods has torn across parts of the UK, rendering many people homeless and desperate. On a positive note, so far our government remains committed to reducing greenhouse gas emissions and reaching net zero emissions by 2050. I am well aware that this section of our report seems rather negative, but like all moments of darkness, there are many people in our communities who choose to carry the light of kindness and compassion, working in solidarity, caring for the most vulnerable of our society. In the words of Pope Francis, walking together with mercy, social justice, and the strength of our interconnectedness for the greater good of all is our mission. Thank you.
Thanks, Margaret. And so in that world in which we live, we all have many different ministries, which Bridget is going to reflect on now.
Thank you. One sister spoke recently of mission as change and movement. Another called it adaptability. These are our day-to-day realities. We now have 3 houses and 1 sister in a Liverpool nursing home. Each house keeps prayer, community, and welcome at its centre. In every chapel is a book of intercession for all who ask our prayer. Our house in Harrow has 2 sisters, Sister Judith and Sister Mary Susan. Sister Judith has been founding director of Educarum, a national organisation for leadership in Christian education, for over 25 years. She continues to organise retreats, sessions, conferences for head teachers, teachers, and pupils. She has published 3 inspiring books on Catholic social doctrine in schools and worked with international projects, visiting the Philippines, where lives of girls and women are threatened and their education challenged. She trains pupils as young school chaplains, encouraging the smaller children in faith and action for the poor. Sister Mary Susan is also out on mission most days of the week, supporting centres where trafficked or abused women find safety and help. The Women at the Well. She teaches English and catechetics to immigrant families and parish children and helps in the parish welcome centre, where homeless, vulnerable people and single mothers receive practical help, food, clothes, and most of all, recognition of their dignity as human beings. Sister visits the housebound, taking Holy Communion, and both sisters are often out of the house, and yet their house retains a welcome for parish and local people. A long-term associate, Sue Riley, often spends weekends with the sisters. In Liverpool, there are two houses, Swanside and Gatehouse, only 2 miles apart. The Gatehouse community has 4 sisters and is also our administrative centre. The sisters largely look after the house, cooking and garden. Sister Delia is the one who opens the door and answers phone calls, while Sister Doreen, as in her previous London mission with trafficked women, still supports refugee families. Refugees and asylum seekers have recently suffered increasing violence, abuse, and rejection. Sister works with the parish and Share Knowsley projects, responding to immediate needs for food, clothing, and completing the documents to request benefits, help, or education. Huyton Parish has also been linked with international projects for many years in Romania and Suriname. Sister Doreen also takes communion to the sick and housebound, while a new mission has taken her into a primary school, helping children understand the Bible through art and also reading with children who need more individual attention. Sister Louise continues her lifelong mission in spiritual accompaniment, retreat giving, locally and internationally, and occasionally supporting other congregations, groups, and parishes. Over 20 individuals come to her for personal spiritual accompaniment. Sister Louise supports sisters learning English and spends many hours using
réserve
her
à
skills in
utiliser
translation.
ses talents de traductrice.
Sister Moira,
Sœur
our
Moira
regional,
est
has
notre
been
responsable
co-responsible for over 10
pour
years
plus de
for the
10 ans
Irenaeus project,
du projet Irénée.
a very
C'est un
active
projet
center of
qui
faith
offre un
and
centre
evangelization
très actif de foi
close to
et
Liverpool.
d'évangélisation près de Liverpool.
The center offers ongoing
Ce
support
centre offre un soutien
on the
continu
journey of faith
sur le chemin de
and
la
prayer,
foi et de la prière,
with activities of
avec
singing,
des activités d'art,
dance,
de
for
danse,
those
pour
otherwise
ceux qui
neglected,
sont autrement
a
négligés.
food bank,
Une banque
where
alimentaire,
showers and
des
clothes
douches,
are
même
offered,
des douches et des vêtements
and a
sont
team of
proposés
volunteers
et une
is on hand
équipe de
to
bénévoles
welcome
est là pour
and to listen.
accueillir et écouter.
Sister Margaret
Sœur
Baxter
Martha
recently
Baxter a
gave the
récemment
volunteers there
donné aux
at
bénévoles
Irenaeus
du
a
projet
session
Irénée
on
une
attentive
session
listening.
sur l'écoute active.
Sister Moira
Sœur Moira
runs many of the
dirige de
retreat days and
nombreuses
weekends
journées au
and
week-end
offers
de
spiritual
retraite
accompaniment.
et offre
She liaises
accompagnement
with the
spirituel.
Archdiocese
Elle
and
assure les
parishes,
liaisons avec
exploring
l'archidiocèse
ways of
et les paroisses,
developing
explorant
synodal
les moyens de
cooperation
développer la
following our
coopération
own
synodale
diocesan
d'après
synod
le
of
synode
2018 to
diocésain
2020.
de 2018 à 2020, continuant à développer cette
We move to
programme.
Swanside.
Maintenant, l'autre
Swanside has its own
communauté,
story.
Swanside.
When the
Swanside
last
a sa
chapter was
propre
finishing,
histoire. Lorsque le dernier chapitre
sisters were
s'est
preparing
achevé,
to
les
begin
sœurs se
a
préparaient
new
à
community in
fonder
Swanside
une
Road.
nouvelle communauté à Swanside Road.
The sisters
Les
have
sœurs
lived in this
vivaient dans
locality
cette
for 50
localité
years,
depuis 50 ans,
but the house had
mais la
required
maison avait
complete
bien
renovation.
besoin d'une rénovation complète.
Sister Margaret Baxter and Sister
Sister Margaret
Joan
Baxter et Sister Joan
joined us from London,
nous ont rejoints de Londres,
leaving thriving ministries
laissant
there
des ministères
to
florissants
support the community
à Londres
and
pour
apostolate in
soutenir la
Liverpool.
communauté et l'apostolat à Liverpool.
Construction errors
Les erreurs
and
de
COVID
construction
restrictions
et les restrictions
initially
imposées par le
slowed
COVID
ministry,
ont d'abord
but now
ralenti le
every
ministère.
sister is
Maintenant,
part
chaque
of the
sœur
prayer,
participe à la
service
prière,
and
au service
hospitality of the
et à
house.
l'hospitalité de la maison.
You can see the door is
You
open.
can voir que la maison est ouverte,
Sister
la porte
Joan,
est ouverte.
after coping with ill
Sœur
health,
Joan, après avoir
has
fait face
developed a very
à la
active
mauvaise santé,
ministry of spiritual
développé un
accompaniment.
ministère très actif
At
d'accompagnement
present,
spirituel.
Sister has 10
Actuellement,
individuals,
Sœur Joan
but
a
there are
10
many
personnes,
other requests.
mais il y a beaucoup de demandes constantes.
Sister Margaret Baxter
Sœur
has
Margaret Baxter
undertaken a new mission
prise un nouveau
much
ministère
needed at this
très
time,
nécessaire en ce moment
and for which her
et pour
years
lequel
of
ces
Jesuit
années
refugee
de
service have prepared
service
her.
jésuite auprès des réfugiés
As
l'ont
a
préparé.
lead police chaplain,
En tant qu'aumônier
she now
principal
visits
de la police,
5
elle,
police centers
elle
in Liverpool,
visite maintenant 5 centres
also
de police
organizing
à
Zoom
Liverpool,
sessions for
organisant
many police
également
on
des
justice
sessions
and
via
dignity.
Zoom pour la justice et la
And
dignité.
Louise also helped with
Sister Louise
these,
a donné l'une de ces sessions
giving Zoom on chaplaincy
avec
and
Zoom sur
spirituality.
l'aumônerie et la spiritualité.
Sister Margaret supports
Margaret
the
répond
spiritual
aux besoins
and
spirituels
emotional needs
et émotionnels
of the
des
male
officiers
and
de
female
police,
police
hommes
officers
et femmes,
who constantly
qui
face
sont constamment
violent and
confrontés
complex
à des
situations.
situations violentes et complexes comme policiers.
Last year,
L'année
particularly,
dernière, en
riots meant
particulier,
long hours
les
of
émeutes
duty
ont
and
entraîné de
hospital care
longues
for
heures
police who
de
were injured.
service et des soins hospitaliers pour les polices qui
Sister
étaient.
Sarah returned to
Que
Liverpool
Sarah
from Harrow,
est revenue à Liverpool
and she at
après
once
avoir quitté
picked
Harrow.
up her
ayant
ministries,
immédiatement
visiting,
repris tous ses ministères
supporting
de
Highton Parish
visite,
and
de
projects,
soutenir
and
la
of
paroisse
integrating
et au
into
projet
the
de Haïti
refugee
de
projects of
réintégration dans les
Asylum
projets
Link,
pour les réfugiés
a
de
centre she still
l'organisation
visits every week.
Asylum Link, un centre qu'elle visite chaque
Sister Bridget,
semaine pour
after
aider les
7 years in
réfugiés.
mental health
Sœur
pastoral care
Brigitte, après
and
5 ans de
addiction
pastoral
services,
de la santé
has
mentale
continued with
et
house
de
groups
services d'aide aux
since
toxicomanes,
2011,
a continué à animer des groupes
exploring the
dans
Bible,
la maison depuis
saints,
2011,
the mystics,
explorant la
and
Bible, les
ways of
saints,
discerning.
les mystiques et la manière de
Many
discerner.
people say
De nombreux
it is the
participants
only
disent
space we have
c'est le seul
to
espace que
speak
nous
of
avons
what matters to
pour
us.
parler de ce qui nous
From
À
2022
partir de
onwards,
2022,
we have widened
nous
our
avons
sense of
élargi notre
associates,
notion
now
d'associé,
called family or
désormais
friends of
appelé
Saint Mary,
famille de Saint-Marie,
understanding that
comprenant
those
que
who
ceux qui
cannot
ne
be
peuvent pas
regularly committed
s'engager régulièrement
can still be part
peuvent quand
of a
même
wider
faire partie
and
d'un
more
réseau
flexible network.
plus large et plus souple.
4 sisters
Quatre
helped
sœurs
with a
ont
2-day discerning
participé
retreat
à une
in
retraite de
2023.
discernement de 2 jours en 2023
Other
et
sisters
d'autres
helped
sœurs
with
se sont
personal
joints
and
à
group
un
discerning
discernement
in
personnel et de
2024,
groupe en 2024,
guided by Sister Louise.
guidé par Sœur Louise.
As with individual
Pour
spiritual
la
direction,
direction spirituelle
group
individuelle,
sessions
les
are
sessions de
focused
groupe
on
ont
helping
pour
each
but
person
d'aider chaque
find
personne
and
à
undertake
trouver et à
his or
entreprendre
her own
sa
mission
mission
in the
dans
church.
l'Église.
Our Archdiocesan
Notre,
Synod
notre,
also
notre
has as
synode
priorities
diocésaine
accompaniment
a pour
and
priorité
finding the sacred
l'accompagnement
vocation
et la
of each
vocation
person.
sacrée de chaque personne, aider
Present
les
groups
personnes à
also
trouver les
include
vocations. Les
making
groupes
space
actuels
for the
s'occupent
unimaginable.
notamment de faire de la place
Sister
pour
Bridget also
l'inimaginable.
visits 2 primary
Sœur
schools,
Brigitte visite
care
également
homes,
2
and
écoles primaires,
housebound.
des maisons de retraite et des
All of
personnes
us are
confiées à la
part
maison.
of parish
Tous,
life
nous participons
and a
à la vie
presence
paroissiale
to
et à la
whoever needs us.
présence à quiconque a besoin de
Coming
nous.
out of Mass,
Après le mot
people will
messe, à la
speak with
sortie
Sister
de la
Barbara
messe, les
to
gens
ask
parlent à
her
Sœur
for prayer.
Barbara au téléphone, téléphoner avant à Sœur Mary.
And then we have Sister Margaret Young
Et maintenant, we have
in
Sister
Christopher
Margaret
Grange
qui est à
Care Home
Christopher Green.
for over 9 years.
Elle est là dans cette maison de retraite.
She
Elle est
speaks
là
of
depuis
her
plus
own
de 9 ans.
networking with staff
Et elle
and
parle en
residents.
même qu'elle travaille en réseau avec le personnel et les
These
résidents.
are not 3 separate houses.
Ce ne
We
sont
have
pas,
tried to stay
il ne s'agit
connected with
pas
each other
de 3 maisons
with
séparées.
regional Zooms on mission, ecology, and the vows. All 3 communities collaborate with parish and archdiocesan initiatives. And we all write to members of parliament.
Please, Sister Bridget, we have a
Yes,
little problem. We are looking for the translation English-Portuguese. Can you wait?
She's coming back. She just
Yeah.
came back.
Thank you, sister. You can
So
continue.
good. Okay, we're nearly finished. All 3 communities collaborate with parish and archdiocesan initiatives.
Todas as 3 comunidades colaboram com a diocese e com as paróquias.
We all write to members of parliament to encourage justice in politics. In this holy year, we recognize our limits and also the hope always offered to us.
No nível internacional, 4 das irmãs de Liverpool mantiveram contato com as irmãs dos Camarões, seguindo o projeto Posso Perguntar, para partilhar a vida religiosa entre gerações e entre países. Várias irmãs fizeram parte do ensino internacional de idiomas entre as províncias, especialmente durante os meses de Covid. Neste ano santo, reconhecemos nossos limites e a esperança sempre oferecida a nós.
Thanks, Bridget. I don't know if we realise the Portuguese is coming out, certainly through the English. I don't know if the Portuguese translation is coming out all over. So we have our three houses. And just to conclude, one of the things we realised is how much we have adapted our ministries and our lifestyles. We heard about our movement from schools to parishes.
Please, Sister Moira, we have a problem with Portuguese translation. Irmã Cristina, o que está funcionando mal? Todo mundo está escutando português agora.
Je pense qu'il y a un problème avec
Une traduction avec le portugais, hein, oui.
la traduction.
Mais donc, Sœur Christina a perdu la connexion, elle est
Oui, j'ai
revenue.
perdu la connexion.
Mais elle est revenue, mais je ne la vois de nouveau plus.
Non, mais je ne vois pas la traduction. Les interprètes.
Maintenant, Charles, il faut la renommer interprète parce que
Mais oui,
tout
mais
le monde entend le portugais. Je ne sais pas ce qu'on peut faire.
tout à fait. Mais elle est sous quel nom, en fait? Parce que
C'est Christine Liman.
je ne trouve pas. Je ne la trouve. Ah voilà, ok. Christine, avec un CH. Ok, je vais le faire.
Merci. Anglais, portugais.
Oui, oui.
Parfait,
Christine
merci.
Lehman. Mettre à jour. Ok, on peut continuer. We can go further. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And so we adapt our ministries and lifestyles according to the needs.
Nossas discussões nos
It
últimos
has
meses
become very
ficou
clear
claro,
that
como
though the
Luís descreveu,
institutional church
e muito
diminishes,
l'Église
there's a
traditionnelle
real search for and deep desire for spirituality. People in all levels of society are looking for someone to walk with them. And so we reflected.
bancos de alimento, apoiando aqueles que estão na liderança.
Hey. So we reflected on where we are as a British
A sociedade do jeito que está agora na Grã-Bretanha há muita busca. E acreditamos no profundo desejo de espiritualidade. Acreditamos que as pessoas em todos os níveis da sociedade estão procurando alguém que as acompanhe para que possam amadurecer em sua espiritualidade e encontrar o que estão buscando. Bridget estudou nossos ministérios em todas as áreas em que as pessoas estão buscando significado em suas vidas.
And I was able to go to Juliana's vows, and Margaret Baxter was able to visit the Buffalo region. All of this enables us to recognize our spirituality and internationality, welcoming and visiting. The strong emphasis on learning languages in order to help develop communication. All of our sisters, many of our sisters, have been involved in supporting others in learning
De
English.
aprender línguas é muito importante. Muitas nossas amigas estão ajudando outros países aprendendo línguas.
We've had a group of sisters, and I think we just
Nós tivemos grupo de irmãs
involved with the May I Ask You project.
Que falaram, que participaram do Posso Perguntar projeto.
Have been able to share with our sisters in Swanside, organised by Sister Doreen, and it's brought real energy.
muita energia nesse intercâmbio entre províncias.
And, of course, synodality. In Liverpool, synodality was a main area within our own synod and how we work together. We have the family of St. Mary, as Bridget explained. We decided we needed to expand because the group we had of associates were growing older with the sisters, and we wanted to widen that group. It's now called for us the Friends of St. Mary and includes many people who we work with and share with.
Trabalhamos a questão social e a família de Santa Maria.
Please, Sister Moira, a little bit slowly because the Portuguese translation is not growing. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
On
A
the
família
11th
de Santa Maria, e no dia 11 de novembro, tinha 70 pessoas na nossa celebração.
We've had a lot of emphasis on our sharings in community.
Nós
And as
muito ênfase nas partilhas em
many
comunidade.
Zoom meetings. Each
Pelo
community
Zoom,
has set aside time to
nós
share their feelings,
dedicamos
to
tempo
share
de
their
partilhar
experience in their
de
work
nossas experiências,
and in their
né?
lives.
Nosso trabalho e nossas vidas.
Communities, we try to develop our sense of what it is to be a sister of St. Mary of
Nós
Namyol.
discutimos, nós refletimos sobre
Trying to develop
o
time
que é
when we
ser
can
irmã
share
de
this,
Santa Maria neste momento, nesta comunidade.
recognize
Para
that
que
we're not working alone.
reconheçamos
We are ministering as community.
que nós estamos ministrando não como pessoas, mas como
Ecology,
comunidade.
of course, is central.
Ecologia também é central.
And we are aware of the needs of our world. And it
Nós
often
estamos muito
comes up
conscientes
in
das
community
dificuldades ecológicas
discussion.
e os
But what of the renewed path to mission?
novo
As we
caminho
said
para a
in
missão.
2018, Liverpool had an archdiocesan synod before
Em
the international one.
2018, a Diocese
And
de
a
Liverpool
compliment
tinha
was
um
identified.
sínodo sobre sinodalidade.
Pope
E
Francis
houve
said,
várias
it's more
experiências
than
e
just
propostas.
being with people. It
E uma
entails
dessas
deeply listening to them,
propostas era acompanhamento,
supporting them.
especialmente espiritual. Também a chamada de
Accompaniment
de
also involves
encontrar outras pessoas.
we accompany people on the journey to an encounter with
Nós
community,
acompanhamos pessoas
with
na
God,
jornada para
with
uma
those
futura.
around them, even at our welcome centres and Irenaeus. It's a feeling
Mesmo
of belonging.
nos centros de acolhimento e no projeto Irenaeus.
Accompaniment
Então, isso
have
seria
it as a
novo
form
caminho
of
para a
accompaniment.
missão. Acompanhamento em todos
We
os
accompany people in catechetical
todos
situations,
os lugares.
teachers and schools,
Veja o acompanhamento na
make
catequese,
social needs
nas
in our
professoras
centres
e nas
complete.
escolas, nas
For
situações
us,
sociais.
our hope for the future
Nossa
of our
esperança
project
para o futuro é que nós
is
possamos
that we
continuar
continue
a
to
encontrar
reach
outras
out to
pessoas,
others,
acolher as
welcome them in,
pessoas e,
and
às vezes,
take
arriscar novos
Sister
encontros.
Mary Susan shared an experience of a refugee lady who needed help, needed support,
I
gained permission to stay. She was alone, and the sisters welcomed her in,
there she's
enabling her
talking
to
about
find a
a
permanent
woman that
place
came So they had no place to stay and came to the sisters. And the sisters welcomed her and were able to find a place for her. Nous avons tellement
there's no
en allant
hiding
vers le futur.
what we are experiencing physically with
Nous
restrictions
savons que nous avons des restrictions de vieillesse et d'être peu, mais nous sentons que nous sommes encore forts dans le ministère.
E podemos ter uma âncora de esperança nos lugares onde nós estamos.
We believe
Nós acreditamos que é possível viver juntas em harmonia.
that God transforms situations.
Que Deus pode transformar
That
situações.
if we model our lives on Christ, it
Que
can
se
be
nós modelamos nossa vida em
that
Cristo,
offering a place to belong gives people
pode ser transformativa. Que nós devemos oferecer pessoas um lugar para
we began as a small
pertencer.
community in a
Nós
hostile area
começamos como uma pequena comunidade numa área hostil de Inglaterra, mas nós tocamos a vida de muitas pessoas. As escolas que foram fundadas no início para as irmãs já têm outros donos, mas ainda estão prosperando. Ainda continuam. Nós
enabling them to
fizemos
experience the love
a nossa missão
of God.
e agora começamos a pensar que nós devemos acompanhar as pessoas, que isso seria a nova missão. A espiritualidade de escolher a vida. Cada história de amor é bonita, cuidando do planeta Terra. A jornada espiritual é a jornada mais difícil na vida. A arte de hospitalidade é parte do trabalho de Deus de amor. Precisa não ser amado, não tem ninguém para cuidar das pessoas e amar. e transformar todas essas coisas em Jesus. Sister Coleman, aquela que faleceu.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Obrigada.
Eu vou abrir o micro. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, sister from
Muito
United
obrigada.
Kingdom,
As
for
irmãs
the sharing.
da Inglaterra.
You really help us to get into the history
Nos
of the
ajudaram
religion
a entender a história